sophomore year, our teachers forced us to read perhaps the sappiest novel in all of American literature, The Great Gatsby. Let me ask you something. How does a 16-year-old boy who plays Call of Duty all day read an overdramatic sentimental love story? Then this was a reoccurring theme. Our teachers made us read things such as Romeo and Juliet, Fault in Our Stars, and Rebecca, aka the Twilight of Gothic novels. But in all seriousness, I did learn some things from The Great Gatsby. Like, if you let your crush drive your car, she may run over her husband's mistress.
No.
I learned that some things are simply unattainable. And God, do I wish Gatsby knew this. Because throughout the book, he spends all of his time, effort, and money chasing a married woman with zero feelings towards him. It's almost as if he can't realize that she doesn't love him. Regardless, deep down inside, he's convinced himself that she does. And shocker, he never wins her over once the book ends. Growing up, we're taught that the truth is just and absolute. Yet, whenever it conflicts with our beliefs, we act as if it doesn't exist. It seems as if our own preconceived opinions trump reality. Our parents tell us at an early age that if you don't like something, just ignore it. Or the version we learned in kindergarten, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Key phrase, don't say anything at all. This is a phenomenon that psychologists call willful ignorance. Essentially, keeping ourselves unaware of the facts and choosing instead to believe in a lie. Let's analyze this issue up close. First, we'll dive into the deep psychological meaning behind willful ignorance. Then we'll analyze the reasons why we choose the fictional reality over a fact. Before finally unraveling the problems that come with the societal habit. Humans are a lot like Superman. We're strong, tough, and charismatic. Our weakness can make us insecure, introverted cowards. Our kryptonite is the truth. An inconvenient fact can destroy our self-esteem and make us question our own moral judgments. But, lucky for us, we have something called ego defenses. Processes we deploy that, according to psychology today, diffuse both fear and anxiety, aka the reality exterminator. One spray from the reality exterminator can get rid of those pesky facts, letting you believe what you want to believe. Good news, I guess. One of these ego defenses happens to be willful ignorance, a law term that describes our habit of ignoring information that we don't like. You see, folks, willful ignorance lets us live in a false reality. According to psychologist Mark Halleck, it occurs when individuals realize at some level of consciousness that their beliefs are false, but ultimately fail to establish the falsity of their claims. Often, willful ignorance will be used to preserve our own well-being. The truth can be brutal, so to maintain our dignities and self-respect, we act as if it doesn't exist. Have you ever ignored your mom's advice to clean your room? Well, you, my friend, are suffering from willful ignorance. But just why do we ignore reality? Truth is, it's baked into our brains. According to psychologist Albert Bandura, people are highly driven to do things that build self-worth. However, sometimes those things aren't the best for us. Sometimes they can be harmful. But rather than ignoring these harmful habits, our minds automatically create social justification for them, further distancing ourselves from the realities of what we are doing. And all this happens unconsciously, in a part of our brains unsurprisingly called the unconscious mind. According to Sigmund Freud, this part of our brain can affect our very own judgment. Not often, it contains unacknowledged facts and evidences that we are too afraid to face in real life. So, willful ignorance is there for our own convenience. I mean, any issue can be solved with a little bit of ignorance. Is your scale showing signs of you gaining weight? Ignore it. Do you have an assignment due on Monday? Ignore it. Are you suffering from severe lacerations and almost bleeding to death, but are too lazy to call an ambulance? Just ignore it! Unfortunately, ignoring our problems can only lead them to spiral out of control. Our reasons for distorting reality lie in our apprehension of the truth. Way too often we want our own self-made narratives to be true. However, when we find out that they're false, we still continue to believe in them regardless. And according to civil psychology, this is a function designed to keep our brains from struggling in situations it can't handle. And what makes it even worse is that according to entrepreneur Margaret Heffernan, our ideologies are consistently growing stronger, narrower, and harder to get rid of. I mean, I'm sure you've all had those debates with that crazy uncle who thinks that the Confederate flag isn't offensive and that the Holocaust isn't real. But let's face it, no matter how hard you try, he's still going to walk around strutting in his Confederate flag cap, tweeting anti-Semitic things. In addition, the sheer brutality of the truth can be enough for us to cast it to the side as if it doesn't exist. Nothing reflects this more than the bystander effect, a phenomenon that occurs when the presence of a group causes us to dismiss blatant offenses taking place right in front of our eyes. According to psychology today, the judgment you will receive for saving a drowning man's life or stopping a mugging can be enough to cause a state of social paralysis, where you try to justify your own lack of intervention. And this leads me to my primary concern. When we choose to be willfully ignorant, we ignore the obvious at our fingertips. It seems that willful ignorance is a trend in America. I mean, ever since the 1900s, people have been ignoring the risks of smoking only until recently. About a century later, not much has changed. We've had 5 major mass shootings last year, one of them being the deadliest in American history. And yet, the large majority of people still can't bring themselves to support gun regulation laws. The top 50 most influential scientists all endorse climate change and believe that it is indeed a real threat to human society. And yet, a whopping amount of people still believe that it's a hoax. In 9th grade, I entered high school with one goal in mind: to become the greatest basketball player to have ever lived. Now, I'm a 5'10" Indian guy, so of course, I'm not going to the NBA anytime soon. But at the time, I thought I could. I remember drooling over players like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Kevin Durant, before he went to the Warriors, of course. However, my sheer unathleticism and how bad I was at basketball ultimately rendered all my attempts useless. And usually, coach just saved me a spot on the bench. The time and effort I put into basketball could have easily been put into things that actually mattered, such as getting my awful freshie grades up for the honor roll. But those days are passing now. No matter what I do, I can never get any of that time and effort back. Listen, I'm not trying to say that acknowledging the truth can be easy. Acknowledging things like the death of a loved one or rejection can be brutal. However, being like Gatsby and ignoring these truths can only make them much worse. If we stopped ourselves from getting tangled up in our emotions and instead accepted reality, the world would be a much better place. For a little less ignorance would help everyone. Thank you.